Hello.
Hello. How are you this evening?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I think it's interesting that for some reason, ever since whatever update, I never hear the Skype audio ringing. I just see the pop-up.
Oh, interesting. Was it a Skype update or an OS update?
I'm pretty sure it was a combination OS and audio hijack update. I could probably play with it and figure it out, but it's kind of irrelevant.
I'm on the most current version of Audio Hijack, and I am on the most current version of Catalina. And I do not, well, when I'm calling you, I hear the ring back.
Yeah, same here. I just don't hear the ringing when you're calling me.
Right. You should call me sometime and see if I can hear it. We could try that right now.
We can save that for next week. I'm not overly concerned. As long as I know that you're calling, I just keep an eye on the screen. It's not a big deal.
Do we have any follow-up from last week?
Nothing that I put in the notes. I mean, we have plenty of follow-up in general, but nothing specifically for this episode.
Yeah, I've been trying to pay attention to follow-up and try not to have follow-up. There's always going to be follow-up.
And then we can just strike it off at the turn of the year and say, well, that was last year's follow-up.
Here's our special follow-up episode. It's never going to happen.
A quick question on recording in general. I was debating whether or not we take a week off for the week of Christmas. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Christmas is on a Friday?
Yeah, I was thinking we'd certainly record the week before, which would be the 15th, so a week from today. And then the 22nd would be the next recording date, and then the 29th. And I was debating whether or not we take the 22nd off.
I'm okay recording either. I'm okay either way.
Okay. I don't have any plans for the week, so I'll adjust. And I was putting placeholders for show notes and skipped that week just as a temporary, not sure whether either of us had anything that would preclude recording or not. And
No, I don't have anything going on. I'm working up until whatever day they give us, and then I guess Christmas Eve and Christmas Day I'll be off it. So
I actually have a 3-week stretch that I will be out to try to burn up PTO before we move to flex time.
Yeah. I don't even know what I have, but I'm taking the week between Christmas and New Year's off. I always take that week off. It's the most fun week of the year.
We discussed that, so I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll re-edit a couple of those notes and make sure we put a placeholder in for the week of Christmas as well.
Sounds good. I was going to say, especially this year, is knowing, not doing anything, not going anywhere.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day. It'd be kind of nice to do like a quick jaunt up into the mountains and stay somewhere, but I don't trust places to clean to my standards, in between visitors.
I found a few places on Airbnb, like this one guy. I sent him a message and he was like, I loved his response. He was like, yeah, we are taking this very seriously. He's like, I am a doctor. And like they were going to the extent of, he's like, there's an extra $35 charge if you want to use the hot tub because we drain and refill the hot tub.
Well, that's good to know. It might be something where I still look and see if maybe we have a couple of days that we go somewhere. I kind of doubt it at this point, but yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Even if we did, my setup is easily portable. If we ended up doing so and I needed to have access to edit or record, I could.
Totally. So I saw that you added some topics to our show note for tonight.
I did. I added quite a few things as a continuation of our teaser over the past couple of episodes. What camping or hiking or outdoor discussion would be complete without actually going into some of the accessories that you use pretty commonly, and knives being one of the most common, or at least for me. And I saw you added a couple of notes on camping stoves and poles. So maybe, I was just going to say, maybe we combine all that into just gear. Like, what do you typically carry for outdoor activities? And then we can have, of course, sidebars on interesting side topics there.
I was just going to say, I can't believe I can't believe I forgot about knives. Knives are like cool and fun and so forth.
Yeah, I have a huge collection of knives ranging the gamut from inexpensive, just I don't care if I lose it, but it's a decent quality carry, to knives that I would definitely not want to lose because of the investment.
So what is your what's your go-to knife? What's your go-to knife?
Prior to discovering Benchmade, I typically carried Leatherman, specifically their Crater C33X model, because it's nice and compact. It holds its blade sharpness well. But the thing that I liked most about the form factor is it has a folding clip in the other end of the handle.
Mm-hmm.
So you could either use the clip on a pocket or, something like that, the side clip that's on the handle, or you could fold that other little locking clip out and attach it to a strap or a carabiner or whatever else you wanted to attach it to. And so it was very versatile and very easy to pack with whatever gear I wanted to carry. And so that was my go-to for the most part for a long time. And then early this year, actually, I decided I would upgrade my everyday carry since I wasn't doing as much outdoor activities. There's many outdoor activities that, even though the knife is well suited for it, but I did a custom order Benchmade knife, and I specifically chose the Barrage model. Mm-hmm. And main thing I like about them is you can buy a pre-configured model for pretty much their entire lineup. But if you want to do something a little more unique or tailor some options to your preferences, they have certain family models that you can do completely custom. And so the customizations I made were geared toward what I wanted most in a knife that I was concerned about. Concern maybe isn't the right word, that I wanted to make sure was decent size and not easily losable, I guess, for lack of better phrasing.
Sure.
Most knives for hiking, camping, they tend to run black or green or whatever combination of those, which blends in pretty easily if it falls. And I wanted a white handle.
Oh, okay.
Because there's very few times you're going to drop a knife with a white handle and not be able to find it. And so that was primary customization. The other thing that I did was I did choose their harder stainless blade. And one of the things that I've liked about their knives, they have a kind of unique locking mechanism.
I was noticing that.
Yeah, I mostly thought about it just because of Jacob at this point. He's young enough that he doesn't understand knife care or the dangers of dealing with a sharp object. And if we were to go camping, I didn't want him to get his hands on something that he could hurt himself with easily. And so this has a kind of a dual mechanism where you can slide a little slider in the back that locks the blade in place in the closed position. Mm-hmm. So you have to unlock that and then flip the blade up, and then the blade locks into place. And I just felt it was a little bit safer for general carry around him until he gets old enough to understand more.
Yeah, I had I believe I still have it. I just haven't seen it in a number of years. I put it in a box and have not found it. I have not found that. I've not gone through that box in a number of years. And but this, I had a Smith & Wesson knife. It had a titanium handle and a plain Tonto. I don't know if it's a Tonto or Tanto shaped blade, and you could just flip that thing out. Especially because the handle was so much lighter than the blade itself. You could flip it out, and it was so much fun to flip out and close and flip out and close. Much like it's fun to play with the opening and closing of a Zippo lighter. But I did annoy a number of people by doing that repeatedly.
I can imagine. The Benchmade has an assisted opening as well. So when you unlock the mechanism and then you start to flip the blade out, it does slide out very easily and cleanly. And it has that same type of effect where it's fun to kind of snap it out into place, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. But it's large enough that I haven't found myself doing so just because it's large enough that it could pose a hazard, at least with a young kid running around the house.
Yeah. With the white handle, did you happen to get the black oxide finish on the blade?
No, I thought about it. I went ahead and kept it with the stainless, just normal steel finish. Not for any particular reason. It was just one of those things that I didn't see a reason to have the blade treated. What's
it is a treatment.
I was blanking. There's also isn't there a metallurgical term for what you do to metal when you apply a treatment?
I'm sure there is. I don't know what it is. Oh no, we have feedback. I mean follow up.
Yeah, I'll look that one up. But either way, I just didn't see a reason to add that for that particular knife, knowing what my use case would be. Because eventually I do intend to also get one with a black handle that I will do the treatment on the blade as well, so that it's all black.
Yeah, my Smith & Wesson pocket knife that I can't find is black on black. It was a gift, and I quite like the black on black.
Yeah, the Leatherman that I mentioned first is black on black. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that one. I'm going to ask you about that on all of them. Anything that can get the black finish, I want to know. And then the Free K2.
That one is really more just because it has a limited multi-tool functionality as well. Mm-hmm. And even though I rarely use that in a knife, I wanted a second carry that I could have that functionality with if I felt like I needed it. I think it has 3 accessory blades, quote unquote. I know it has Phillips head, and flathead screwdrivers. I don't remember what the other accessory is off the top of my head. I haven't used them. I just wanted that extra capability. And it is larger than the Crater. It's about the same size as the Benchmade, so it's about a 3.5-inch blade.
Just looking. Before the show started, I pulled up, open tabs for everything that you had a link to, and then I put tabs for some of the things you didn't have a link to listed. But yeah, it's a 3.3-inch blade, and it says 7 additional tools, including a pry tool and Phillips screwdriver. But it's only got three things that you can pull out. So
yeah, it's similar to most other multi-tools in that regard. Like the Phillips screwdriver blade can also be used as a bottle opener, where it's got the little kind of latch thing at the bottom. Yeah.
Yep. And then you had
I went from like those are the 3 that are folding knives that I rotate through depending on need or desired carry. And then I separated out a list of fixed blade knives that I wanted to call out for general uses that I also will occasionally carry with outdoor activities.
Okay. Tell me about your, I was going to ask you, I assume the folding knives, they're just standard. I need a pocket knife for this thing. You have, depending on, I guess, mood or whatever, you're going to choose to be this one versus that one. And, is that a correct assessment of how you pick those knives?
Yeah, pretty much. The Benchmade is the one that I kind of default to as an everyday carry option now. Prior, it was the Crater. The Crater now I actually keep in the Jeep as just an accessible secondary blade for if I forget the Benchmade or if I just didn't carry it that day, find myself in need of a knife. It is compact enough that it fits really well in the middle console, small little shelf. I don't really know the proper term for that.
No, I think that's a good idea.
It just seems to fit the purpose for if I find myself in need of a blade to open something or whatever, and it's easily accessible and always handy, assuming that I'm near the vehicle. And typically I'll have the Benchmade in my pocket because it is pretty much my everyday carry. The only time I grab the Freeform is if I know that I might need the additional tools for something. And so prior to working from home consistently, if I was going to be spending some time in the server room, I would grab it just in case I needed quick access to predominantly the Phillips head screwdriver. But you never really know in those instances, and so it was nice to have the versatility of somewhat of a multi-tool in those cases.
I believe you've let me use your Benchmade. I believe I needed something one time, and you handed me a knife, and I believe it was that Benchmade.
Might have been.
I don't recall.
It might have also been the Crater, because that was the one that I carried pretty consistently every day prior to getting the Benchmade.
Yeah, I don't know when you got the Benchmade, but now come to think of it, I don't recall the white handle, so it might have been the Crater. Either way, it was handy that you had a knife.
Yeah, I didn't put a link to it because I couldn't remember the model, but it was the precursor to the Crater that I had that I loved, I absolutely adored, and thought it was done better than the current iteration. And the whole reason was that the handle was a skeleton frame handle and not a solid handle.
Yeah.
And I lost it because at one point we had to go to the ER with Jacob for trouble breathing. This was a few years ago at this point, and I forgot it was in my pocket. And of course, you cannot enter a hospital ER with a blade. And so the guy asked me if I wanted to run it back out to the vehicle, and I said, "Look, I'm concerned about my kid. Take the knife." And I, in retrospect, I should have just run it out. It wouldn't have changed anything for the outcome, but still, I was being a responsible adult at that point. So,
yeah, I mean, you don't when your kid's in trouble, possessions are quite secondary.
Yeah, and of course, at the time, or in the moment, it never even crossed my mind that I would consider that option of doing anything to retain possession of the knife. It just, in retrospect, sucks, because I could have very easily run it out and been back in the ER in more than enough time before we were called back. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference on like an everyday carry? Do you even have a knife that you would classify as an everyday carry?
I don't have an everyday carry. I've been looking for my Smith and I've been thinking about I haven't been looking. I've been thinking about, like, if I found my Smith and Wesson knife, I would put that as my everyday carry, just because I've got it. It's so light and it's very thin. Like it's quite a big not quite a big blade. No, it's maybe, I don't know, 3.5-inch blade. Definitely not more than 4-inch blade. But the profile of itself, like the handle itself, is not much thicker than the blade, and so it's a fairly easy daily carry knife. But other than having used that one in the past, I don't. I often find myself borrowing my son's Swiss Army knife. He has a the standard Swiss Army knife that you get for a young boy. He's 9. He got the knife when he was 8 in Cub Scouts, 3rd graders. For him, corresponded with being 8 years old, start using knives, and they take they sign a pledge about understanding safety, of how to safely use a knife, how to put away a knife, and so forth, and so he's had a pocket knife for a little over a year, and he was accident free for almost like a year and a quarter. But I find myself grabbing his knife from time to time. It's funny because tonight I found the tweezers on the floor in my kitchen. I was like, huh. So I mean, I'm quite amazed the number of places I find the tweezers, and they're not lost. So I'm able to put it back in the knife for him.
Yeah, I used to have a couple of different variants of the Swiss Army knife. One, probably the same general model you've got, since I spent a long spell in Scouts, Cub Scouts through Boy Scouts. And so I vaguely remember what you're talking about, but it's been so long ago, I couldn't tell you any details for sure. But I do remember also getting a larger variant later on. It wasn't the huge one. They've got one that is massively wide that has, it seems like 1,000 tools.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And it was not that one. It was one that was definitely in between that extreme and the normal one that you think of. But I remember it feeling relatively similar in hand, so it probably wasn't much larger. The biggest difference was probably in the attachment tools or accessory tools that you can get for them. But I don't know where either of those are anymore.
Yeah, I was trying. I feel like. So I got the one. I was trying to locate which one it actually, like, how many tools it has. I'm pretty sure there's Victorinox. I've not understood this, and there's another Swiss Army knife, but I haven't I'm assuming it's another brand of knife that is used by the Swiss Army. I don't know. But there is a brand of knife called Victorinox, and they make the Swiss Army knife. But I feel like there's another Swiss Army knife, multi-tool knife I've seen called the Swiss Army knife, and it has a different logo on it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. I was under the impression that the Victorinox was a model of Swiss Army knife. Mm-hmm. Just the way that I saw it presented, and that the rest of the Swiss Army knife models did not have a specific naming convention to them.
Oh.
I could be completely wrong. Like, I certainly have not done any research on it. Sounds like an additional item of follow-up.
I'm just saying, like, I was like, I bragged about not having follow-up, and here I am, like, making all the follow-up. Yeah, so he is a. It's a. I don't think I think it's as big as you can get without scissors. So it's
Okay.
not too big. I know it's got a corkscrew. It's got the it's a blue handled. It's got a blue. The typical one you see has got a like kind of a darker red handle, maybe like a almost a crimson color plastic handles on it. His is blue and it has the Cub Scout emblem on it, and I thought that was kind of cute. And so it would be for him to use, and then like it's going to be for his brother to use after him, and I'll let him pick his own knife that he wants when he is a Boy Scout, and I'll let his brother use the Cub Scout one, and then when his brother's old enough, then I'll probably just use that knife. Nobody loses it. But yeah, and that might be my carry knife. So
Well, you could certainly choose worse for carry.
yeah.
Those have become very useful over the years. Though it's funny, I was kind of thinking about this as we were putting together the notes for the show. Why does the basic Swiss Army knife have a corkscrew?
That's a good question. Because I know, like I said his doesn't have scissors, but just looking at the Swiss Army knife website, there's one that's quite a bit smaller that does have scissors. So that was not a good comparison. I know he's got like two blades, and one blade's probably three. The big blade is probably 3 inches long, and it's got a big blade and a small blade. Phillips. I think it has maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it doesn't have the corkscrew. It has a Phillips screwdriver. I don't know. I'd have to look at it again.
Yeah, it's the thing that comes to mind, of course, is assuming that the idea of the Swiss Army utilizing these across the board, you can understand why a corkscrew would be there.
Yes.
But it just has always been kind of fascinating. During my time carrying knives, I've never used the corkscrew on a knife that had one.
I know that I've used the corkscrew, but I don't know that I've ever put a corkscrew on a Swiss Army knife in a cork. I know I've used it, though. And based on what I've seen my children do with tent stakes, I have no doubt that they would put a corkscrew in some piece of wood somewhere in the woods just to do it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So let's talk about these fixed blade knives. I really enjoy fixed blade knives just because of the utility of them. I always had this dream, and I'll get to it when we get to one of the knives that I put on the list. But tell me about the Buck and Bear Hunter.
So that was one that I came across kind of randomly. I was searching for any fixed blade knife that had a Damascus steel inspired blade pattern, just because I'm still a collector of knives in some fashion, regardless of whether it's useful or functional. But the Buck and Bear Hunter specifically is a fairly traditional fixed blade knife.
Yeah.
It's what you would expect any general just blade to be with a normal leather sheath, right? So it's nothing extraordinary in form factor, but what their calling card, I would say, is their presentation and appearance.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
So the handles are beautiful for sure, and the particular model that I have, I would be surprised if it is truly Damascus steel. I'm pretty sure it's the etched, engraved Damascus steel pattern that you find everywhere being commonplace.
So tell me, what is Damascus steel?
Damascus steel would be taking steel and folding it over on itself the way the Japanese forge blades.
Got it. Okay.
And so this particular knife that I'm talking about definitely does not have that quality. It's definitely things that are etched into the blade and to appear that way versus it being a smooth blade that has the ripples that you would expect from steel being folded over on itself. So I don't know how or why they get away calling it Damascus steel, because it's not. There's just no way it is. It's physically, from a tactile sense, it is not steel folded over on itself. It's a large steel wedge that is potentially compressed, and maybe the way they make it is they do fold it over on, however many times, and then to make the presentation even more interesting, they go back and etch the blade.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible. Really didn't matter to me. What I wanted was something that was a good knife for carry, but also was a piece of art to an extent. And so that's what attracted me to this particular knife in the first place. That said, it is so well balanced and so easily used. You know, if you think about weight distribution and comfort of grip and everything else, that it is something that I do carry often with outdoor activities, just to have a good fixed blade knife. So while it looks good, and that's what initially attracted me to it, it's also quite functional.
It's a good looking knife. Do you have the blue handle?
I do. And it's interesting so where I first heard about them was not directly from the manufacturer. So the version that I linked looks basically the same as what I have, but it is not the same model, quote unquote.
Okay.
I don't remember what they called the one that I linked. I think it was just it was either White Walker or Night Walker. I don't remember which.
The one you linked was White Walker.
Okay. So the one that I have, they classify as Night Walker, and it is not listed on the site. And my understanding is that it was a collaboration between the particular reseller and the manufacturer.
I was just going to say, interesting, the URL for the link that you put says Night Walker, but the actual page says White Walker.
Yeah, I knew there was something kind of strange about it. It is the same knife. Like there's no difference whatsoever between that particular link and what I have. It's just the way it's presented is different from a marketing standpoint.
So I actually kind of want to skip over the Ocean Master actually, I was going to say skip over that, but then I realized it's my knives are next. So go ahead. I was just going to say, I'm going to reorder my knives because, or at least talk about them in a different order than I have them listed, because the Ocean Master kind of it fits a daydream I had. But tell me about your Ocean Master, because I can see where this is going.
Yeah. So the Ocean Master was originally my choice of dive knife, and because of its versatility, it became also a regular carry for just any outdoor activities. So when choosing a dive knife, the resistance to corrosion is obviously a big deal. And I'm at this point, it's commonplace, but at the time that I was looking for a good dive knife, titanium blades were not overly common. And Ocean Master was one of the first to market, I believe. If they weren't one of the first to market, they were certainly one of the first to really popularize it within the dive community. And so I went ahead and picked one up, and I actually picked up two over time because I liked the knife so much. It's nicely balanced. The blade is nice and long, and it packs away pretty easily, even though it's rather large from a size perspective. It's extremely lightweight. And so I find myself using it. If you would kind of think of a traditional like hunting survival knife being any of the K-Bar series knives, it's similar in styling to those without having the compartment in the handle is basically the difference.
Yeah, I was just going to say I was going to ask you, or rather I was noticing that there's a couple of configurations where you can get they're double-sided, and there's even like a double-sided blunt one, and I was just, those must be like dive specific.
Yeah, if the most common use for a knife underwater is if you have to cut away weight for whatever emergency, or if you get tangled in something. So the sharpness of the blade can be a significant factor, but the versatility of the blade is more important. So for most cases, you would want a regular edge on one side and then kind of a serrated section on the other in case you had to saw at something for a bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know that sharpness is necessarily a huge deal in those scenarios. I never found myself in a position where I would question that. I would personally prefer it to be a nice sharp blade. But the thing that I've noticed being most useful is having a blunt tip, because a lot of times you will use the knife to also shovel at something or kind of dig into something. And a sharp tip could be somewhat dangerous to you depending on what you're attempting to do as well.
Well, I was going to ask you, you say you have two of these Ocean Master knives, correct?
Yes. Both of them are in the same configuration, actually. I just loved that setup so much. It's the pointed tip, straight edge on one side, serrated edge, part way up the back on the other, and then kind of the curved straight edge for the rest of the length of the blade.
Yeah, cool. That's cool. Let me ask you, because this is where this is where my daydream starts, and that is, do you have the neoprene leg wrap?
I did. I do not know if I still do. And this is just because my dive gear has been stowed for a number of years at this point, and I realized last time I went through a couple of things that were extra I didn't notice in the bag, so I don't know if I've lost them over the course of moves and repackaging, etc.
Yeah.
So I did have the neoprene strap, and I think I still do. I may not. I know for sure I have the hard sheath with the kind of rubberized straps.
Okay, that's a cool knife. That sort of fits into what I was daydreaming about. And actually, I do have a K-bar knife. That was one of the first fixed blade knives I have. It does not have. It has a full tang, so it doesn't have a compartment in the handle at all. But I got the I don't know what the handle is made of, but it is not the leather handle. It is a sort of rubbery grip handle, and it's black, and then like the black finish on the blade, and it's quite a big knife, and it's heavy for knives, and I remember getting it for my birthday and using it to cut my birthday cake that year. But it's I think I actually ate my cake off of it. So it's I was just gonna say the specs on the website have it weight listed in tenths of a pound, like 7/10 of a pound. So it's already in, think about it in the scale of pounds instead of ounces. And so, and it has the hard plastic sheath. But in my head, I was just like, this would be the coolest dive knife. Not thinking about saltwater corrosion or even corrosion from freshwater. But I was just like, this would be the coolest dive knife, and I think it would be a cool dive knife. But it is heavy, but it is a cool looking knife. But now I kind of would use it as a sort of all-purpose bushcraft knife. It's one that I would not be afraid to baton to split wood. So instead of carrying a hatchet, just find a relatively heavy stick like you would use as a baton and use it to smash onto the blunt edge of the blade and have the blade on a piece of wood so you can split the wood with it. That's a fairly common bushcraft technique for splitting wood. It's such a big knife and such a thick steel knife. I think it's a good use case for it. I haven't had the opportunity to do that, but that's something I would use it for. I've wanted to use it for as of late. Sometime this year I started thinking about using it for that purpose, and I sometimes carry it with on my backpack for short trips, and it's been I haven't put it through its paces, but it's a pretty knife.
Yeah, as you were talking about it, something I probably should have included and didn't, because it's not actually a knife per se. There are a number of companies that make like survival/tactical disassembled walking sticks, like multifunction devices where they have basically a hollow tube sections that you screw together for whatever length that you want, and within those you typically have like a spear blade and a knife blade and something else where you can carry some combination of those. And the selling point is typically that it's like a trekking or walking style staff with a relatively indestructible end, but then depending on the accessories you can make it a harpoon or leverage it for fishing or whatever. I mean, there are plenty of different things out there like that. I don't remember what brand I decided to pick up. It was just relatively inexpensive at the time, but same kind of thing. The knife blade that comes with it is similar to a K-bar styled blade, or what you would think of a traditional style blade. I don't know if they make multiple configurations or not, but that kind of bridges the gap between a number of different things that we either have talked about or are going to talk about, and it probably should be its own category. But I do also have that I keep just dropped in a pack in the Jeep in case I need it.
What is the style called again?
I don't know what you would classify it as. It's like a number of 6-inch metal tube pieces that you screw together to make a walking staff, but each of those tubes being hollow means you can keep different accessories that are threaded within those tubes to be able to take any one of them off, thread that accessory into the open end, and use it as a knife or a spear or whatever. Kind of a multifunction device. I'll look it up and we'll add that to follow up for next week.
I was just going to say that's what came to my mind was a multifunction tool, multifunction device. Yeah.
It was just one of those things that I think the K-bar is kind of the original variant of that in a handheld form factor. And you're starting to see a handful of manufacturers extrapolate on that to, okay, well, if you had, say, a K-bar at the end of a pole, what would that look like? And how do you make that more usable? And that kind of seems to be the overall design ethos, I guess, of the products that I've seen lately.
Yeah, and that sort of reminds me of the, I know we were, the Rambo knife, I'll say that for lack of a better word. And I think often that gets confused as a K-bar knife, but it's actually not. I don't think it was actually a knife at all. I think it was a prop that they used for the movie, and there was no, it was designed to look like the K-bar, but it wasn't actually a real knife. That compartment in the handle was invented for the movie.
Well, it's certainly useful since I've seen a number of different manufacturers make knives like that post-movie anyway. But that's interesting to note. I would have thought that it was the other way around.
Yeah, well, I remember being a kid and having a toy knife, like shaped just like the Rambo knife, and it had a compass in the handle, and I remember it had like a piece of paper in the handle, and you could and the tiniest pencil, so you could like, I guess, take notes of the bad guys. And but I remember reading, fairly confident that I read that it was a prop for the movie, and the handle was designed after the K-bar. The handle compartment had never existed before, and now it's quite a number of knife manufacturers have mimicked that feature.
Interesting. Well, I didn't mean to derail the conversation.
Oh, no.
You still had a couple of other knives.
Yeah, I have a couple other. Yeah, they can be lumped in together because there's a Swedish knife manufacturer called Morniv. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but it's Mora and then Kinv. That's it. And in English, it's been translated to Mora knife, and it's a I don't want to say cheap because it's actually a good quality blade, but it is a low-cost budget fixed blade knife. And Light My Fire had a collaboration with them, I suppose, and they made a knife that came in all sorts of colors that had fire steel with it. So it came with in the handle. It came with I guess it's flint, and then the blade of the knife is used against the flint to create sparks. And they sold those knives anywhere between $10 and $15 or $20. I remember seeing a friend of mine with one. He had it in like this bright safety orange color, and he was using it to cut some string. And I was like, "Whoa, that's a pretty sharp knife." He's like, "Yeah, this is a great knife. It's not a full tang knife. It just is a good quality knife, and that's rather inexpensive." And I bought one. I actually bought a red one, and I have used that on my paddling trips. I have it. I keep it attached to my life jacket, and I've gotten some good use out of it. One time last year, during non-pandemic times, I was paddling on the Coosa River, and young woman, I think her name was Sarah. I don't know. It was her 21st birthday. People kept calling her Miller Time, and she ended up borrowing my knife to shotgun a beer, and so I felt like that was a worthy cause. So, and then another person in the group I was paddling with also used the knife to shotgun a beer. So, yeah.
It sounds a lot like I don't actually know who makes the knife that I have. I've got two of the same knife, actually, that are good quality blade. The handle is very much inexpensive, obviously manufactured for bulk use at a relatively inexpensive price. if I remember correctly, the blade can be used pretty ubiquitously to strike against any flint or similar fire-starting surface. There's something about it that I remember being designed to withstand that particular friction. I don't remember the details. It may also just be a kind of a sales gimmick in general. But I have two of them. They work well, and if you carry around a piece of flint, it does create a good spark.
Yeah.
I have not tried that with most knives. I remember those two that I've got, specifically mentioning that capability and not seeming to be marred or damaged by doing so.
Yeah, so it's interesting because like the Light My Fire Mora knife has that flint. I don't know if it's actually flint, but it has a piece of metal in the handle that you can pop out and strike with the blade of the knife, and you can start a fire pretty easily with the right tinder. But I was noticing the second Mora knife I got just to keep on my backpack, and it specifically calls out that you cannot use the knife blade to make a fire. It will not do that. So I'm wondering if they've had some customer service issues with having their line of blades on the Light My Fire knife, which is no longer available. It's been discontinued, and now everybody's like, well, why can't I start a fire with my Mora knife? And it's, well, you don't have the right Mora knife. It's a different knife. It's a different
Interesting
model. Yeah, but yeah, I just picked up a second one because it was like $10 on Amazon, and I was like, well, I don't want to keep moving my blades back and forth, so for $10 that solves that problem, and I'm okay with that. Can't have too many knives. And that was the one. It's the Mora knife Pro S, and that was, I don't know what the S stands for. That was the one that got my son. He gave himself a pretty good cut, and it has since, we took care of it. I had the first aid kit with me, got some alcohol on it, cleaned it up, put some Neosporin on it and a bandage, and he was good to go.
Yeah, it's a sidebar, but it's kind of amazing how quick you heal as a kid versus how long it takes to heal as an adult.
Yeah. Was there anything about knives that you thought about and didn't mention yet?
No, I don't think so. I have a pretty massive collection of specialized knives as well, like a handful of different throwing knives that were manufactured specifically for that purpose. And, I don't know how many different pocket knives and just general use blades that are stashed in a tool chest in the garage. But the ones that I called out are the ones that I specifically go to and use for the vast majority of purposes. The others are, it's just fun to collect knives. So that's what the others are for.
Yeah, I was just going to say that is a young boy's paradise right there. I can remember being so enthralled, like as a little boy with knives, and mine are the same, and I would expect that pretty soon your boy will be like enamored by knives as well.
Oh, I have no doubt. I'm sure it'll be kind of similar to the way that I found out about a lot of them, which is he'll get to the age where he starts rummaging through the tool chest, and there's a knife. I'm going to swipe it. And,
yeah. For me, it was knives and calculator watches. I loved a good calculator watch.
I never really got into the calculator watches. I've always loved good watches. For me, it was more just large, hefty watches than it was the calculator watch itself. I remember the Casio G-Shock always being something that I coveted until I learned what a good watch was.
Yeah. I remember the Casio G-Shock being just a cool watch.
Yeah, and I'm not going to take anything away from it. Like the G-Shock does serve its purpose well. It's an inexpensive watch that can withstand a lot of abuse, and so that they've done an extremely good job of cornering that market. But it is not a precision or high quality time masterpiece, so to speak.
It's a great watch for a kid.
Absolutely.
Just like for a nerdy kid, it's a great watch. I actually had a number of Ironman triathlon by Timex, and then maybe one or two similar not Ironman triathlon watches by Timex. They still make those, so I thought that was kind of cool. I was looking at them not too long ago.
Yeah, I remember having a couple of those as well, and then eventually, I couldn't even begin to tell you timeline-wise, but at some point or another, I discovered Seiko as a watch manufacturer, and that's when things just took a good turn for a watch enthusiast, a bad turn for a pocketbook.
Yeah. Yeah. So I listed a few camping stoves and that I have used or would like to use. The first one I have in there was the MSR Superfly, and it's actually quite a good camping stove, but I would never buy one. I would never. It was one that was given to me, and I would never buy one. It's since been discontinued. I think they discontinued it this year, because I remember looking at it and it was for sale last year. But it's a great isobutane stove. If you're going to be outside and it's near freezing temperatures, then it's not a good stove at all, because isobutane will not aerosolize, and you're just sort of like, you don't get a good flame out of it. But I've used it to actually cook what I called backcountry boeuf bourguignon. Boeuf bourguignon being a French sort of beef stew that was popularized in the United States by Julia Child. And then I think Ina Garten made a much easier version of it. I went and made a super easy version of it that I actually cooked out on a trip one night, and I had, much to the envy of the other folks that I was with, everybody was like, at camp was like, that smells so good. And it was good for simmering, so I like that. And then the other stove I have listed next to it is the MSR Whisperlight Universal. MSR makes actually several variants of the Whisperlight. There's a Whisperlight, there's a Whisperlight International, and a Whisperlight Universal. The difference with the Universal is that you can take it into outer space and it still works. No, that's a joke. The original Whisperlight was a stove that worked on liquid fuel, so it was recommended to use white gas, but you could use kerosene or even diesel if you wanted to. Maybe I'm wrong about the diesel. Maybe it was the International that allowed you to use diesel. There's one of them that allows you to use diesel. It burns. It's dirty, but you can, if that's the only fuel that you have, that's an option for you. But the Universal one, what they added to it was the ability to use isopropane as well. So it's the same clean fuel that you get with you could use with the Superfly that I mentioned, but it actually will work in colder conditions, because it comes with a stand where you can invert the canister so that the liquid will run down through the tube, and you can prime the stove so that the liquid aerosolizes right as it gets to where the flame is, and so it'll actually work in freezing conditions, whereas the other fuels tend to work in freezing conditions as well. So that is why it's something that I would use to replace my Superfly if I knew that I was going to be in more colder temperatures. And then the third one I have is I listed as the beer can stove. It's on Wikipedia. It is the beverage can stove, and it is a stove that was made from an aluminum can. I've seen various ways of constructing one of these, but I found a YouTube channel that has my favorite way. The channel was it was Tim the Tin Can Man, something like that, and he was able to take one can and make one stove. And a lot of the other builds that I've seen of this DIY stove use two cans for one stove, and I thought it was really cool that he came up with a way to do one can and one stove. And he even had explained how to make a template so that you could make the inner wall work, because essentially what you would do is you would you take the can and you would empty the can and clean it out and cut the top off. And when I say the top, it would be the groove that would make the rim of the can. So you're taking the circle that is the inside top of the can. So you use just a box cutter to just continually score the aluminum until you eventually cut through. You just keep running it around the aluminum and you cut through, and now you've got a can with an opening on the top. And then you can take something, a piece of metal, and deburr the inside of that so that you can cut your fingers. And then about 2 inches down from the top of the can, you score the aluminum until you can eventually cut it off. It's really just like continually scoring the aluminum until the metal becomes so weak that you can separate it like you separate a piece of paper that's been perforated, which is pretty cool. So then you do the same to the bottom, and I think you do like about an inch from the bottom. And then you have this middle piece of aluminum. Cut it in half so that you can open it up. And he gave some instructions on how to make a template so that you basically cut an arc shape in that middle piece of aluminum. And the reason you would do the arc shape is because the inside groove of the bottom of the can is a little bit smaller than the inside groove of the top of the can. So when you twist that aluminum or fold the aluminum, but when you essentially make a cone out of the aluminum, you want it to fit inside the bottom and top grooves nicely, so that you create a double wall stove. And then you fill that with methyl alcohol. It's really inexpensive from Walmart. If you go to the automotive section, you get heat in the yellow bottle and use that. It's almost pure methanol, and use that for cooking. There's also a way of using a piece of paper to create a template for putting holes in the aluminum so that you have jets for the flames to come out. That's interesting. So easy. Yeah. It's like, hey, that was weird.
Yeah, I toggled Wi-Fi just to see if maybe it was something on my side, and then suddenly things started working, so I assume so, but that's strange.
That is odd. What was the last thing you heard me say?
You were talking about the template where you could potentially perforate, create basically holes for the flame to come out on the can.
Yes. Yeah, there's actually he came up with this really cool method of taking a piece of paper and folding it in half in various ways to create a template so that you can create however many holes in the top of the can for the jets. And he happened to use basically a Dremel version of a drill press to drill his holes. But the aluminum is so soft, you could also do what I did and just use a push pin. You can use a push pin to push a hole right into the can and do the same thing.
I bet you could use a corkscrew on a Swiss Army knife.
I think it would be actually, because of the twistiness of it, I think it would actually be more difficult than a push pin. But that's a good callback. But I have used the aluminum can. So I made the aluminum can stove. I've only used it for boiling water. So it's like since it's super light, I'll use like a 3/4 of an ounce of denatured alcohol or methyl alcohol, and use that. That'll boil 8 ounces of water, and depending on how cold it is, like if it's 40 degrees outside, it'll boil it in about 7 minutes. And then I use it just for boiling water and rehydrating meals. So nothing. I wouldn't do any try to do any cooking with. You could, but I can't be bothered with it. The whole purpose of me making that stove was just to boil water for freeze-dried meals. And then that was pretty easy to use. The only drawbacks to these things are that if you accidentally step or sit on one, it's an aluminum can. It's like stepping on an aluminum can. It's crushed. It's gone. But it's so easy to make and cheap to make. You need a push pin, a box cutter, and a can. That's it.
Yeah, I didn't follow the link on this particular one that you put in, but I have heard of people doing it in a number of different ways, and it's one of those things that it seems like it's rooted in typical survival skill type of environments like that. It seems to be that's where it's come from, not necessarily from hiking and camping, but it's extremely applicable.
Yeah. I saw it more as like a way to. I know in the sort of some of the folks I've seen from the same folks who are into the cottage vendor camping scene, also in the cottage vendor alcohol stove scene, and it's like all sorts of variants of alcohol stoves. This is the beverage can stove tends to be really easy to make, and I happen to have found a really good design. Tim Can that's his name. Tim Can is the channel on YouTube. I think I said it wrong earlier. He's a cool guy, got a cool channel for making the stove. I've made a large variant with the Foster's can, the big beer can. I've also made a small variant with the sort of like the mini can the 8.5 ounce can. To do that one, because of how big the arc is, you need the tall shot can, like the Red Bull shot or the Red Bull can to get that one. But I've made it with the small diameter cans. I've done 3 different sizes.
So not the Coke Mini size can.
If you use the Coke Mini, you actually need 2 cans for it. But if you get the Red Bull can that's a little bit taller, same diameter as the Coke Mini can, but a little bit taller, there's enough aluminum in the middle to do that.
Makes sense.
And then with the standard 12-ounce can, you just need 1 can for one stove. And same with the big can, the Foster's big can. I really want to get my hands on the Heineken keg can, but I haven't seen that in years. I think it would be fun to make one of these out of the Heineken keg can, the big keg and the little keg can.
It seems like I saw one not too long ago. My perception of time at this point is relatively skewed, though, so I'll keep my eyes out.
I'm wondering if I can pick something up like at a package store, but I have not seen keg can in the grocery stores in years. There was a time where I started with Heineken, and then I didn't drink Heineken for a long, long time. And the only thing that's gotten me to where I want to get some Heineken is that I want the keg can. Make a stove out of the keg can.
I'm sure that's what their marketing team had in mind.
Yeah. But that's all I have about stoves.
I added the SoloStove to the list. I assume that most of your interaction with them has just been the fire pit, but
yeah,
my introduction to them was their camp stove, and so I figured I would put it in as a call out. There's not really anything specific to say other than I find it to be great to use because the smaller camp stoves, they've 3 different sizes, and they're designed basically identical to the fire pit for high airflow, high efficiency, and so with the smallest range of those stoves, you can literally use twigs and get a really good hot burn to be able to cook something.
Yeah, I mean, I've used I mentioned the Bush Buddy, which is similar to that. Same basic design. It's quite amazing that you can just stick a bunch of twigs in the bottom of this stove and get a fire going hot enough to cook food. It's so cool. I was just gonna say, I know that with the fireplace that I have, the outdoor fireplace that I have from SoloStove, you could, those coals get hot enough, you can cook on that thing. You just put a grill over the top and you can cook on that.
Yeah, they've actually now developed a quote unquote grill that's just kind of a modified variant. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just it's an accessory, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Weber grate that I've got actually fits on the bonfire perfectly, but I haven't tried. I need to look and see.
Yeah, I've wondered about the grill I have and the grate in my grill, if it would fit there. I think it's big enough that I could at least just stick it on top and hope for the best. But yeah, the SoloStove is quite possibly one of the greatest products I've ever bought. I have had such a good time sitting out on my back porch with the fire going and having a drink, whether it's a coffee or a cocktail. It always leads to a lovely time.
Yeah, I certainly have no negatives about mine either, other than I probably don't use it enough.
I mean, can you use enough? I don't know. I'll move on from stoves to trekking poles because I don't have a lot to say about trekking poles, but I will say they're great for hiking. If you're going to be hiking multiple miles with a pack, it's a good idea. Really good idea. Even on flat ground, trekking poles make you 30% more efficient, so you don't get quite as tired. And on any sort of rugged terrain, they will save your ass, literally and figuratively. There have been a number of times where if I had not had trekking poles, I would have bit it, and it would have been potentially a bad day. That's 3 bads. I started out with an inexpensive pair by Black Diamond. Even though I am an MSR fanboy, I just couldn't buy the MSR poles because they didn't have 2 features that I really, really want, and that is lightweight and cork handles. I've used plastic handle trekking poles, and cork handle trekking poles make a huge difference. I would do everything I can not to use a plastic handle, but to use cork handle trekking pole. And the other thing is my second pair of trekking poles, I got carbon fiber poles, and the lightness is nice. And that's about all I have to say about them. I prefer telescopic poles instead of the I don't know what the name of the other technology is. You take the poles apart, and there's a piece of shotboard fabric in the core of the pole that keeps pieces from being lost. I used to tell the ones with to have telescopic sections. And I set them and get going.
All of that makes sense. I do not have any trekking poles or experience with them. We historically with scouts would just find a relatively stout branch or stick and kind of carve it and whittle it to what we wanted. That's what we used. And then what I was mentioning earlier, that multifunction device, I guess, is the most recent variant of a trekking pole that I've purchased, but I didn't purchase it as a trekking pole. I purchased it as a kind of survival / as stated, multifunction tool that could be stowed in the Jeep in case I needed some of the functionality that it offered. Because I don't believe I would want to hike with it because it is steel. It's not... Actually, it may be aluminum, may not be steel. But either way, it's still heavier than what I would want to hike with.
My first poles were aluminum. There's a noticeable difference between the aluminum and the carbon fiber. But the aluminum, it's not too bad. I think MSR also uses aluminum poles, but they just use... I think they're very strong poles, but they're significantly heavier than all of the, just not even lightweight poles, but standard poles that you can buy for hiking. They had some clever ideas and clever mechanisms, but I couldn't do it. I wanted something lighter.
Yeah, it just seems like the kind of thing that every benefit you could get on losing weight in a pole would be what you would be after.
Yeah.
I can't imagine... I'm sure scenarios exist where a heavier pole is preferable, but I just can't imagine that being something that would be a driving consideration. I would expect other features to be a driving consideration, and the byproduct being a heavier or lighter pole, depending on a feature that you had to have or couldn't get elsewhere.
So tell me about designs. A lot of things you have in there. You have everyday carry bag and travel bags.
Yeah, I didn't intend to go through all of the different bags individually. It was more, I decided I should list out how bad I have become with accumulating Peak Design bags, just to call it out, because I am at this point absolutely in the Peak Design fanboy camp. I can't think of any other way you could put it. Because even beyond this list, if you start going into the other products they make, you would be hard-pressed to find something they make that I do not have. And it's extremely excessive, but let me just run down the list real quick so that people get an idea of what I mean. So with their everyday carry bags, I have the version 1 of the Messenger and the version 2 of the Messenger. I have a version 1 backpack, the 30-liter size, the version 1 sling, 5-liter size, a couple of filled pouches. Those you can kind of lump into accessories if you wanted to. But from the standpoint of the everyday bags, it means the only bag that I do not have a variant of is their tote bag, predominantly because I have no need for a tote bag. There are second generations of pretty much all the bags, and I think there are still 2 different sizes of the backpack, though they may have consolidated that.
Yeah, there's a 15 and a 20 liter of the everyday bag.
Okay. I thought there were still 2, but I have the larger of the 2. And then I also have a couple of their travel bags, 2 of the 3, actually. I have the 45-liter backpack and the 35-liter duffel. I actually have 2 of the duffel, and then all the associated accessory pouches like their tech pouch and shoe pouch, wash pouch, etc. Which is to say I have a lot of bags from Peak Design. And all of them are actually used. Like I do not have one that is just sitting somewhere not being used. It's just that I have specific use cases for each of the bags. And so the 2 messengers, I'll take as an example. One of them is my general purpose grab-and-go camera bag because it's small enough yet large enough to comfortably carry what I would need 90% of the time for a photo shoot. And so I just keep it set aside as my camera bag. And then the other one I use as my everyday carry bag for when I was leaving the house and going to the office, for example. And I could very easily grab the camera out of the other bag if I needed the camera, still had room for it. The whole purpose of having the two bags was really just to not have to move stuff around if I needed to, depending on the use case. It was just, I had my everyday carry bag, I had my camera bag, and if I had an engagement where I needed to merge the two, it was easy enough to grab what I needed from the two bags and go. The backpack I use as my, I need a lot more of my gear with me bag. And so if I am uncertain what I'm going to have as a photo engagement, or if I'm traveling and want a camera bag that I'm carrying more gear in, like when we went to Europe and I needed to carry, or need is a strong word, but chose to carry multiple camera bodies and multiple lenses and things because I wasn't entirely certain what type of scenario and setup I would use, the backpack is what I go to. Partially because it's larger, partially because it's easier to carry that much gear on the back than it is in a messenger style configuration, to begin with.
Yeah.
And the sling I actually don't use. That's Emily's camera bag. She doesn't carry near as much gear as I do. Doesn't have near as much gear as I do. And so the sling worked really well for her as a camera bag to be able to take what she needed to the office for anything that she might have to do photo related or choose to do, etc. I don't know that it has seen use in the past year either. Just a byproduct of a strange pandemic year.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going places.
Yeah, the field pouches to me are almost not worthy of calling out, but I mention them because they are kind of nice to have, and it is something that I haven't really seen another company do in quite the same way. So the gist of the field pouch is that it is a relatively tall pouch, and you've got a few compartments inside. But as you fold it over, you can make it smaller and still have it attached. It uses Velcro strips all the way down the side. So it kind of fits the amount of gear that you put in the pouch, which is kind of nice. And I use those for filters for lenses or cables, just small things that I want to keep in a pouch so it's not just floating around in the bag, but they don't take up a lot of room necessarily. So I have a couple of those, and I keep one in the camera bag and one in the everyday carry bag. It's kind of what it comes down to. And then you get into the travel range of bags, and I don't know that I really have a use case for the travel backpack at the moment anymore. It came in quite handy when I was doing some travel. It just hasn't really been used since. But it is my go-to to pack as my single piece of luggage for most trips, because it can fit the camera gear that I would choose to take if I don't put it in one of the messenger bags, or as is more often the case, I carry one in the messenger bag plus the travel bag, and I can easily pack for a week off of that without a problem. So the travel backpack, while not used a lot now, has absolutely proven to serve its purpose over time, and I'm sure it will be used heavily again in the future. And then I have a soft spot for duffels. I don't know why.
Yeah, me too. Me too. No, I have that same soft spot too.
Yeah, when they decided to release the duffel, I didn't want the duffel pack, so that's the one that I don't have. That's a 65-liter bag that just it sounds ungodly, unwieldy. And I'm sure they've done a good job with it. I know plenty of people love it. It's not the kind of bag that I wanted. What I wanted was a bag that you would think of as a typical weekender style bag for travel. And the reason I have two of them is because I use one as a gym/fitness bag as well. And I didn't want to be unpacking my weekender travel bag all the time, if going back to when I was able to go places and or easily going places. And so what I've done since then is the one duffel is still set aside as a travel bag, but the other duffel is now the assortment of fitness gear that I would use at home or in the garage to recreate a gym, and that way I have it all stowed together. I can grab the bag, take whatever I need out, use it, etc. So it's still quote unquote a gym bag, even though I'm not going to the gym with it.
Yeah. I was looking at the travel duffel earlier, and I'm just like, I would. It's such a good weekend bag. I mean, I don't have any of their things, but I did before the pandemic. I saw I assume it's the everyday carry backpack. I saw one of those in REI. I wasn't expecting to see it there, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, because I knew about it, and I'd seen their products, and I was just like, oh, this is this is a really good quality bag. Like right now, I can think of all the cheap duffels that I have and the cheap bags that I have that I'm probably never going to use again. I know that I've got like an Adidas one and I've got a Nike one. Actually, I have a Nike one from 1996 that I have like some sports equipment in. It was the same duffel bag that track and field athletes use, and it's got the U.S. Olympic logo on the side of for track and field. I'm just holding on to that one because it's from 96, and I actually had a duffel bag from 1985 that said USA on it and had Pizza Hut, like a tiny Pizza Hut logo on it. It's quite faded, but I was using that as a gym bag for a while. Anyway, the only bag that I have to note that I really quite like is the one I have listed in there, and it's just a DayPack that I keep my computer in for. What I was using to carry my computer to work on daily, and it was the PackSafe VentureSafe 25-liter G2 anti-theft travel pack. It was free. It was one. There was a training summit that our company had for employees in early 2019, and everybody who was there got the backpack. I looked to see. I was like, it's great because the ones that they did provide to us were really too big for the size computer I have. Even though I have a 15-inch laptop, Apple makes their portable computers quite thin, and it just sort of like the backpack I was using was so big. And then like a month after I got the Mac Pro, I get this PackSafe, and I'd heard about them before. It's like just the right size. It can, if it was a 20-liter pack, it might be, I don't think I could go any smaller than that, but I could probably do a 20-liter pack. But this 25-liter pack is really good. I'll continue to use that as my daily, but I was just looking at the travel backpack that Peak Designs make, and I was like, oh, that would be great for traveling, and that is something I would definitely get a lot of use out of one day when I travel again. But the duffel and the travel backpack, I'd be down with. I have this other duffel bag that was made by Timbuk2. Back when Timbuk2 made sort of funkier products, they've gotten kind of like more mainstream and boring with their product, but they made this like really super thin. It was called the BFD duffel, and it can fold into a pocket in itself that's maybe like 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches.
It seems like I remember that bag.
Yeah, I grabbed it and not thinking about it, I was like, this is pretty cool. And then they discontinued it. And it's probably because it's so thin and so easy to tear that they just didn't want to support it any longer. I get that. But when I was looking at my the website, PackSafe website for the backpack I use from computer, I noticed that these straps have Dyneema in them. It doesn't specify what the benefit of having Dyneema in the straps is, but there's Dyneema in the straps. I thought I'd call that out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about it. I was also just in my head running through, you're mentioning it being a 25-liter and you're not sure you could go below 20. The Everyday Messenger, which is my go-to everyday carry, in a compressed state is a 13-liter pack, and in an expanded state is a 16-liter pack. For my everyday carry, that's more than enough. So it's just interesting that our use cases, even though we use the same computer, like the amount we carry is obviously different.
I will say, like, even this backpack, the PackSafe, I just don't think that I would say, I feel like the reason I say, like, I wouldn't want to go smaller than 20 liters because more, like, it would feel too small, but, like, it's certainly not full. Like, I could put way more stuff in this backpack.
Yeah, it's difficult to describe, so see if this makes sense based on what you know of the pack. One of the things that Peak Design has done that's really unique around or along the line of their Everyday Messenger and the backpack is they have a set of metal clasps where the flap that folds over and connects to those has a combination magnetic and kind of hook enclosure where you can pick which one of those metal strips that you attach to. And so if you go to the one furthest down the bag, it's in its most compressed state. Mm-hmm. And then you have 4 or 5 of those where you can choose which one makes the most sense based on how full the bag is. And I have found that to be so wonderful in use and practice that it seems kind of amazing that no one else did it prior. I'm sure there have been plenty of their derivatives since. I haven't really looked because as far as I'm concerned, if I'm looking for a bag, I'm going to look at what Peak Design has first. And if they don't have it, I may or may not search around. That's just kind of how how wonderful I have found their bags to be, both from a just general purpose, longevity, durability standpoint. And all of the bags I have still look brand new. And I certainly am not easygoing on any of my bags. And to me, that says a lot. I will say I don't necessarily put them in the most demanding of circumstances either. So the mileage can easily vary when you're talking about leveraging them in environments beyond, enclosed walls, so to speak. But even with the travel backpack, I took the combination of the travel backpack and the everyday backpack when we went to Europe. And that combination is very difficult when you're dealing with it in the airport. But once we got outside of that for day-to-day use, it worked out extremely well. And the everyday backpack is the one that I had the 30 plus pounds of camera gear in, and it still looks as though it came out of the packaging, even though I was pretty rough on it while we were hiking around.
Yeah, I remember you speaking of it, and when I saw the one in REI, I paid attention to it because of how highly you spoke about them and what good experience you had using them. And I don't know that I would have noticed it otherwise, but when I got to hold one and feel it, it's like, oh, this is good. This is good quality stuff. Like it is. I mean, it's got a premium on it, but I think it's well deserved. So, and just kind of like where the kind of startup that they have, I think it's kind of cool to be able to support people that are thoughtful in this way and make product like this. But I was just looking at the tech pouches and the packing cubes, and those all look awesome too. I would have a ball with these.
Yeah, the packing cubes have been extremely helpful just across the board. So even on the instances where I have traveled for work and stolen Emily's bag, she has one of the away bags. I don't know how familiar you are with them.
I'm familiar.
Yeah, so I have used it a couple of times traveling for work instead of grabbing like the duffel or the everyday backpack, just because realistically a heavy or a rigid case style carry-on a lot of times is just a lot easier to navigate in airports if you're doing just domestic travel for work. Mm-hmm. But I've still used the packing cubes there, and they make such a world of difference when you don't have to, but when you choose to separate out things and use those cubes to kind of keep things compressed. And I'm just amazed often at how much I can fit in like that case with those packing cubes as well.
Well, I've got a Samsonite piece of luggage that I've had for maybe a decade and a half, and I've thought about replacing it with the Away travel bag. It's a nice bag, but like I've always packed it in such a way where it's like, you've got the piece of elastic that you clip together and it makes X shape. I've always used that because I've always thought like if this pops open for some reason, like I would hate for my stuff to fall out. And worst case scenario with because my girlfriend, the last time we went on a trip together, she was like, I'm going to have to get you using packing cubes because, that's the way to do it. I mean, it's a great way to do it. But I was just thinking, it's like, worst case scenario, if you're using packing cubes, you've got like 2 or 3 cubes that pop out and it's no big deal. Whereas like if all your clothes fell out, that's kind of a pain. But I think even beyond that, just being able to pack more in the same amount of space is, I'm assuming, a benefit you get from the packing cube.
Yeah, so the ones I know that you can get different variations on the packing cubes in general. So I feel like I should add a disclaimer that the ones from Peak Design are not compression style packing cubes, but they are dual layer, and I don't know if that's how you would describe it. Expandable. Yeah, that's a better way to do it. So you can unzip them normally, and you have whatever amount of volume or room, and then there's an additional zipper that you can unzip to expand it to give you more room. And so if you expand it and then use body weight to compress it and zip it back to that first tier, then you're achieving the same general purpose. But it should be noted that you can also buy compression-style packing cubes that are designed to try to compress space more. I'm not saying that one's better than the other. I like the Peak Design ones. The only reason I got them is because I bought the Peak Design bags. And so it was just kind of a no-brainer to go ahead and grab what they offered. The other thing that plays into my favor having that combination. Peak Design with their travel bags, they specifically state or give you rough capacities in relation to their cubes, and you can buy their cubes in different sizes. And so let's just say you bought the duffel bag, right? You have 3 packing cubes worth of capacity in the bag, quote unquote. And that's 3 of the small style packing cubes. And they make a medium packing cube that you would just consider 2 of the small style packing cubes. So you can do 1 medium, 1 small, 3 small, whatever. In reality, that's overly cautious. I have, I think, 3 of the mediums. I may have more than that. I don't know. I know at one point I have used 3 mediums and 2 smalls in the duffel, but I don't pack them to full capacity. I use them to separate types of garments.
Yeah.
So it depends a lot on how you pack and what you're looking for. I do know plenty of people have used other brands of compression cubes to pack in their Peak Design bags to great effect as well. So when it comes to the packing cubes, go with what works, what you need. But I have found the Peak Design ones to fit my need quite well.
Yeah, I can see that. I like the design there. I just thought about I was looking at it and I just thought, hey, what if I was going to buy all the things that I wanted from their website, and I put together a cart, and it was just like it's not that bad. It was the subtotal was $374.
That's actually not bad at all. I was expecting it to be closer to $6.
I was expecting much higher too. And if I added like the travel backpack, then yeah, it would be almost $700. But there's a discount on the travel duffel. It's $90 at $129. I don't know if it's because I filled my cart up with other things.
They one thing that I will say is they do run sales and discounts fairly regularly, like you would expect most retail operations to do. I have the benefit of having backed. So the Peak Design method for bringing a product to market is to launch it on Kickstarter first. So crowdsource a lot of the R&D, make it less costly to the business to launch a new product. And I've gotten all of the different pieces that I've purchased from them cheaper than what I've seen the cheapest sale price. Not necessarily by much. It may only be $5 here or there, but still, it's nice to see that believing in the company and deciding to be a part of that process has yielded positive savings, not overspending as an early adopter, which could easily also be the scenario that happens. I think the best sales I tend to see from them are either around Christmas or around Memorial Day.
Oh, interesting. Well, this has been the Peak Design Show.
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough of them, especially with how many different pieces of their gear I use. Even going beyond the bags, I know we don't have a call out for it, but if you have an interest in photography at all, if you consider yourself a hobbyist or an amateur, if you carry a camera around regularly, you should at least take a look at the capture clip. It will be a game changer for the way you use your camera.
That's where they started, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a cool device.
And I have 3 or 4 of them. The whole premise is that it's a mechanism, relatively flat metal piece that you clip to a strap. It can be a belt, it can be a backpack strap. Any type of strap that you can imagine. It probably will adjust large enough to be able to accommodate it. But it uses the tripod plate on the camera to snap into the particular assembly. And so very easy to lock it into place and have it carried on your hip or on a backpack or whatever for quick access while you are doing a photo shoot, and then stow it in your normal bag when you're not. And it just makes workflow drastically different. So I certainly can't recommend that particular item enough for any even aspiring semi-hobbyist aspiring photographer.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any of their products, but like I can really appreciate like a well thought out design and well executed material. The execution with the materials and so forth with such good designs. It's in some ways it's quite artistic. I don't know. I'm a sucker for a good product, whether I need it or not.
Yeah, I am too. It's how originally I found them and did not feel that they were fulfilling a need that I had, but I appreciated what it was they were doing, and so I thought, why not? I'll grab one anyway and just see. And since then, it has influenced a number of choices, and for the better, as far as the capture clip and other accessories I've gotten from them. Everything that I've gotten has been a positive, net positive gain in my workflow or in my use case or whatever it is, because they have a fairly large portfolio of products, even though they're still kind of photo-centric. You can see where they're expanding their product line. They're getting into things that are not photographer-focused and still retaining that same mentality and creativity focus, with the expansion of packs for different uses being kind of the outlier at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, they made a utility for carrying a camera around, and then they're like, well, we made this great utility. Let's make a bag for carrying a camera, because that's important. When you buy a camera, that's an accessory you get pretty soon on, because you want to take your camera somewhere. And so, a lot of times you buy a camera bag when you buy your camera. And so it's just logical to go from here's this camera accessory to a bag, and then it's logical to take what you learned from making a camera bag and apply it to a travel bag, because I'm sure the creators were just like, I wish my travel bag was as good as my camera bag, and then like, well, duh, we own a company that makes bags, so we're gonna make travel bags. I was just looking at the duffel. Like I keep going back to that travel duffel because it's lovely, and I was also looking for a new duffel bag at the beginning of this year. My search is sort of got put on hold because there's nowhere for me. I'm not going anywhere. But I was looking for, I'd actually been thinking about one of the North Face bags, one of their duffel bags, because they make a good rugged bag, and I've seen the sort of abuse that people have put them through, and I was like, that's fun. But they're like these giant, rubbery, bright colored, or even if you get it black on black, it still says North Face in real big white letters on either side, and I think it's a good bag. But then the only reason I never ended up getting one was because it's not one that I could travel on the plane with. And so I'm sort of glad that I didn't get it, because for less money, that 35-liter travel bag that Peak Designs is definitely what I would get placed. And one of the things is I know what it feels like. I know what the I know what the materials feel like. I know what quality it is. I know some of the features it has. But also on top of that, it doesn't look like a kid's bag. And as I've gone through my 30s, it was like I've made some, not a lot, but some conscious decisions to not make the kid choice, or not make the same choice I would make in my early to mid 20s. Like I'll actually think about wearing certain things differently, and I feel like that bag fits into that sort of change that I'm going through, and it's a grown-up's bag.
It's a very classic.
Yes.
No, I think that's actually incorrect. It's a very timeless style.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a cool bag.
And the other thing that I'll mention, and of course this is one of those caveats I always add, take it with a grain of salt. They do offer a lifetime warranty on their bags, which I like. Obviously, it means that you hope the company stays in existence long enough to honor that warranty if you have an issue.
Right.
But they very much stand behind their products based on what I have seen in the general Facebook group, user group, where people have had issues that I would consider not even issues, that are just normal wear and tear in use, and they've classified it as, we'll replace it, like that type of warranty and customer service, and that is something that really elevates a company in my eyes as well.
That's solid. That's really solid.
I could certainly go on and on about Peak Design in general, but I do want to not make this the Peak Design show.
I think the title for this is the Peak Design Show, starring Peak Design.
Yeah,
or featuring Peak Design.
Given the previous episode, I will certainly play on that to an extent.
Peak Design presents the Peak Design Show, starring Peak Design,
with a special ad read by Peak Design. That does pretty much cover, I think, everything we had in the topic list other than locations, but we didn't expand that. So
no, I think location's it's going to be its own.
And I think that makes sense because locations can encompass so much. I think we should address that with a little more thought and planning as opposed to how we do all the other episodes.
True. I guess we should go into the after show.
Yeah, I think so, because I think we might have a decent amount to talk about there. As always, you can reach us on Twitter at untitled_hosts with an S. We also have an Instagram account with the same name at untitled_hosts. You can send us an email at untitled.hosts@gmail.com. And you can visit the feed directly at theuntitledpodcast.com. Have a good night.
I'm going to start with my bullshit right now.
Okay.
And that is the Apple SE suffix. So you have currently you have the iPhone SE. There's the Apple Watch SE. Is there anything else with the SE suffix?
Those are the only two that I can think of off the top of my head. When I saw this in the notes, I was trying to figure out where this was going.
Yeah, the iPhone SE and the Apple Watch SE. And Apple's been using the iPhone. The iPhone SE has been around for a while, a number of years. But the SE suffix has been around for a lot longer than I realized. And I just never put it together. I'd heard in 1987, Apple released something called the Macintosh SE. And I put that together just today. Or it's because somebody had mentioned that the computer that Apple made that nobody wanted was the Macintosh Color Classic. And it was kind of a terrible computer. But it was, I heard this computer and I heard that phrase and I'm just like, oh, I want to know what this terrible computer was. Because it was in the early 90s. It was back when Steve was gone and I can't remember who was running the company into the ground. It was either Gil Emilio or the Pepsi guy. I can't remember. Scully. I couldn't even remember his name. Anyway, so I went to look at this, and it's an awful looking computer, and in the way that you get sucked into things, I clicked another link on Wikipedia, and in the Wikipedia article, and came across Macintosh SE, and I was just like, oh, what the hell? I just didn't even put together that SE is a current suffix for two products that Apple currently sells, and it was a suffix in a product from 1987. It was sold. It was released in March of 87 and discontinued in October of 1990. And it was followed by the Macintosh SE30. But I was just like, I wasn't expecting that. And for the Macintosh SE, the SE stood for System Expansion. I have no fucking clue what it stands for on the watch or the phone. Do you remember? Do you have any? What does it stand for on the watch and the phone?
I don't know that they've ever stated anything that it stood for. My mind just always went to Special Edition.
Special Edition. Slim Edition. Well, it's certainly not System Expansion.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just like I feel like they just snuck that one in on me.
I did not know about the Macintosh SE or the SE30. Both of those would have been, I guess, prior to me really paying attention to the different available models. I'm sure I worked on different Macs that were produced in the same time frame. I don't know that I ever saw any of those in person.
Yeah, well, I never did either, and I only know about them because I will sometimes go down a YouTube rabbit hole where I watch like old computer programs from the late 80s and early 90s, and it was a computer I just kept hearing Macintosh SE, and I just did not like. I'm more dumbfounded than I should be about me not putting two and two together. But I will say, on top of that, one of the things that they sold with the Macintosh SE, or one of the options that you had with the Macintosh SE, or rather an update in 1989, was the inclusion of a super drive. These were the Macintosh SE had dual floppy drives, so you got two 3.5-inch slots on in the form factor, and there was a revision with the super drive, and I'm just like, I don't know. Somebody over there has been there long enough, and they know all of the things, and like in my head, I want it to be that somebody was like, how about we call it this? And they know, and everybody was, that's a great idea. Like, that's fresh and new, and it's a great idea. And he's like, yeah, that's what we were doing 30 years ago.
It's something that I could see being either way. I could see it being someone who has been around long enough that they kind of slip these nuggets of calling back to old products in. And I could also see it literally being somebody younger that just thinks that it's simple and simplistic and easy enough to go with and not realizing the connection to a previous product.
I think it's neither of those things. I want it to be the first one where somebody is like, on the sly slipping it in. But I really think what it is that you have to learn all of Apple history when you go work in Apple marketing. And so they're just reusing things. And if you've been using Apple computers long enough or you've looked back at old Apple computers, then you'll make the connection. But otherwise, no, they're reusing names, and I think they're doing it on purpose. And I think they're just like, this is fun. We did it. Macintosh SE was a thing, and it came with a SuperDrive. We're going to call this thing because like SuperDrive was an option pretty early on in the 2000s. Maybe even the late 90s, you could get a SuperDrive. But definitely in the 2000s, SuperDrive wasn't. You'd either get a combo drive or a SuperDrive, and it just I really think that they know exactly what they're doing. Even though the folks that are making the decisions weren't there for the first time around, and they're just like, we got to, here's a way we can use this old marketing term, and it fits. But I now really want to know what the iPhone SE is and the Apple Watch SE is, what that suffix mean.
I don't know that anybody has asked, so that sounds like an actual good endeavor for follow-up.
Yeah, I actually should have looked on Wikipedia to see if there was anything that explained what it was, but I don't know.
I'm going to skip the second item for a moment and just jump to the third real quick.
Yeah.
I noticed there was a press release that Fitness Plus should launch on the 14th. It's really kind of all I have to say about it. Like I will get access to it because I already moved to the Apple One plan because it was the same price as what I was paying for the assorted stuff when I got News Plus bundled in, which I was not paying for previously.
Yeah.
So when it launches, I will gain access to Fitness Plus and I will look at it because I'm kind of interested, but there's really nothing else to say on that at the moment.
I think I'm still in the same place. I'm still in my free trial of Apple Arcade, and so far I haven't found any games that are compelling for me to keep it, but once this free trial ends, I'll go to the free trial of, is it called Apple One?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go to the free trial of Apple One, and then I'll continue using it because it's basically the same. I think it's like $2 more than what I'm already spending on storage and so forth. So it makes sense that I'll even though I didn't find anything compelling in Arcade to continue that would merit $5 a month. I do like some of the games that I have found, and I would like access to New Plus. So like those are just free things that I would get, and also it comes with the TV, Apple TV Plus, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, to me, that's sort of like the $2 for Apple TV Plus, Apple Arcade, and Apple News, no brainer. And real time follow up for the iPhone SE and the Apple Watch SE. The SE stands for Special Edition.
So I was right. I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
It just was kind of the easiest, like no thought item, and so given Apple's history of not being overly creative with naming things in a lot of scenarios, it just kind of fit.
Before we go on to the second item, I'm going to mention the thing I wanted to mention about the last item, and it's not specific to Mac OS, it's specific to the operating system that was released for the Mac from 10.7 or Lion until today. And I assume this is the same in Big Sur, even though I'm not running Big Sur on my main computer. I don't think that they've changed it, but natural scrolling is a bitch. I don't like it. And when I say that I don't like it, it's that I hated it when it first came out, and then I forced myself to get used to it because I was working at the Genius Bar, and everybody who had upgraded to Lion or later didn't disable it, and so it was a pain for me to it was jarring for me to use their computer and then expect one thing and the other, and so I just forced myself to get used to natural scrolling on a touchpad, on the trackpad, and I still do natural scrolling on the trackpad. But when I use the Apple Magic Mouse, I do not want natural scrolling, and if I were to use a mouse with a roller wheel, I don't want natural scrolling, and it drives me crazy that I can't have natural scrolling set up for the trackpad and standard scrolling for the mouse. There are two settings in system preferences, and if you change it for one, it changes for the other, and it drives me crazy. And I did used to use third-party software to solve that problem, but I'm just like, why the hell can't it be one and not the other? An example of where they do something like this that I think is great is audio. Like on the iPhone, if I connect to this Bluetooth device, it remembers the last volume level that I had it set to. And then when I disconnect, it goes back to the volume setting I had when I was last disconnected. And if I connect to that Bluetooth device, it restores a volume setting that was last used on that device. And I love that. And I was like, why can't you do that for the goddamn trackpad?
I think it's interesting that you have this aversion to natural scrolling. And the reason I say it that way is I had the same aversion. Like, I hated it when the feature came or was first released. And I thought it was ungodly and difficult to use and everything else. Since then, though, I find if I move to a machine that's either running Windows or Linux or something where the scrolling behavior is not the same, I'm always attempting to scroll as I would on the Mac and then catching myself and doing the opposite. For me, it has become completely natural and preferable to have the natural scrolling, even with the mouse, with the wheel, than when I go to a machine where that is not the default behavior.
Yeah, the trackpad, I have gotten used to natural scrolling, and it's preferred. Like, I have the trackpad. I want natural scrolling when I use the trackpad. I got over that. I made myself get over that, and now I was like, I like it. It's what I want. But for a mouse, I want standard scrolling. I don't know why. I spent a number of years using a mouse on a machine that has Linux because the trackpad that came on that machine was garbage. It was garbage and was such a pain to use that I used a mouse all the time, and there is no natural scrolling on that OS, or there's no option for it. So I don't know. I want standard scrolling on a mouse. I could make myself get used to it, but I don't want to. I shouldn't have to. I think that you should be able to have one setting without using third-party software or utilities. You should be able to set a scroll direction preference for the mouse and a scroll direction. Not only just for the mouse, but I think you should be able to set, if you had multiple mouse, if you used this mouse and that mouse and paired them for, I think you should be able to do it with multiple mouses or multiple mice. But it's ultimately unimportant, right? I'm pretty sure I've sent Apple.com. I'm pretty sure I've sent feedback about it.
I could absolutely agree with you should have a setting for the trackpad and a setting for the mouse, especially since they are actually separate preference panes within system preferences. If you have a separate preference pane for an item, you should absolutely be able to set it independent of other items. When you start talking about multiple different mice and having to remember settings from this mouse to that mouse, I don't know that I would necessarily say that should be a definitive thing. I get the argument and I can agree with the idea. I kind of put that in that would be a great added bonus if it did it. But the being able to set it for a type of device should absolutely be something that you can do. I didn't realize you couldn't, but I also never tried.
Yeah, it switches on you. It's like, because I rarely use a mouse because the MacBook Pro trackpads have been good for decades. I rarely use a mouse, and so when I occasionally attach a mouse, it's kind of like, oh fuck, I forgot this.
Yeah, I actually don't know the last time I used a mouse on my MacBook Pro.
Do you know that your mouse even works?
No.
Yeah. So this last thing, we talked about this, mentioned this many times, and it finally happened.
It did, and I think the name is kind of stupid, but it fits in line with the other comment about Apple is not necessarily great at naming things. However bad they are at naming things, the product itself tends to be pretty phenomenal, though.
Yeah.
So I'll give them that.
I remember when iPad seemed like a terrible name, and now it's just so commonplace that it's I don't even think about it being. I don't even think about how terrible I thought the name was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that one just seemed kind of obvious. You could have plenty of puns and things where it would be bad, but at the same time, I mean, you had the iPhone in existence, and you had the iPod. Of course it was going to be iPad. Why wouldn't it be anything else?
Yeah.
You certainly weren't going to say iTablet. That just sounds
that's
ridiculous.
Worse. That's worse. Yeah. And I'm going to delay actually talking about this topic just a moment more, because I remember thinking about like the first product that Apple released that had the prefix I in front of it was the iMac. And the iMac was the I stood for Internet, because it was a Mac that they did Mac OS. It was a classic OS that got to the point where they were designing it for internet use. This is like computers. They saw they saw where personal computing was going, and that was like lots of internet use. And it's even gotten to the point today where it's like, if you don't have internet access, it's like there's not a lot you've got going on. It's or at least not like it used to be. But the Internet Mac. So then they stuck I in front of iPod, and then they stuck I in front of iPhone, and then, which works. It works for iPhone because it was an internet-based phone. And then they stuck I in front of iPad, and that also works because it's internet-based. But iPod was around for half a decade, a little more than half a decade before the iPhone, and it did not work because it was not an internet pod. It was not until 2007, after the iPhone was released, the first internet-based iPod came out, and that I actually knew what the I stood for.
Well, if you extrapolate that a bit further, though, you have iMovie, iTunes,
Yep.
iLife, iWork.
Yeah, I forgot.
A lot of those, I wouldn't say the I stood for internet. I would say that it became more about brand recognition.
Oh, totally. And then like there was iHome that was ripping off that brand recognition.
Yes.
But yeah, the iTunes didn't become Internet Tunes until 2003 when they got the iTunes Store, and then it really did. The name really fit what it was doing. But the iPod, it took 6 years before it was the original meaning of I in front of a thing became relevant. But the iPod,
it was never shaped like a pod, though.
No. I got one more thing to just delay this a bit longer, and that is podcast. I didn't realize, like, I started listening to podcasts like pretty early on. I think the first podcast I was listening to was the Macworld podcast in 2005, and the term podcast had not been used until like September-ish, October-ish of 2004. And, there was some concern over, it was podcasts were a thing before the term, but podcast was the term that really gained traction. And it was because iPods were fairly ubiquitous at the time. They had like 3/4 of the market share or 70% market share. And the term was like, you have the iPod and a broadcast, and, you mush them together and you podcast. It has since been backronymed. So they take an acronym and make it backwards compatible with the term, where pod and podcast now is play on demand cast.
I suppose that makes sense. And it actually does make you wonder, was that ever in mind with the original naming of the iPod, because you were playing your music on demand?
I don't know.
Or is that just a kind of rationalization of what it could mean?
I don't know. But the pod part of the word lives on with AirPods. You had earpods and they became AirPods when they made them wireless, and now we have the AirPods Max that was released today.
Yep. And for anyone unfamiliar, if you think of the AirPod Studio rumor, the name would have been much better, and it's exactly what we got for the most part, just with a different name.
Yeah.
So the premium over-the-ear AirPods.
I assume that they didn't go with. Studio because there was the Beats Studio. And
I kind of think they didn't go with Studio because they're doing some computational work to the audio stream, and they didn't want to give the impression that it was a reference headphone.
That's fair. I don't know if you noticed, but Beats.com is no longer active. I don't know how long it's been inactive, but it is no longer active.
I don't think I've ever actually navigated to Beats.com, so I did not notice that.
Yeah, It's not a thing, and I don't think you can buy. You can still buy. It looks like you can still buy Beats headphones from Apple's website, but I'm wondering. I think those products are numbered. Those we're not going to see those long for much longer.
The only reason I could see them trying to keep it around is if the sports partnerships are lucrative enough to have that brand recognition from that arena.
Oh, I mean, they're making a ton of money on them, but I mean, I'm sure that they cannibalize a lot of that with the AirPods, and it's like, there's no reason to not make the AirPods. The AirPods are a shockingly good business.
Oh, and perform extremely well. Like you look at just general consumers or people anywhere, like wherever you go, it's kind of difficult not to spot a handful of people using some variant of EarPods or AirPods.
Yeah. Well, I just remember the iPod ads from the early days of the iPods with the colored backgrounds and the silhouette, and it was such. I mean, as bad as they are at naming, some of the ads that Apple, I don't know if it's marketing, but I guess it might be outsourced to ad agencies. But that ad campaign with the silhouettes dancing and then roller skating was brilliant, because you had the colorful background and you had this. I think it started with the iPod Mini because it colored. And these colorful backgrounds, you had these black silhouettes of people dancing to music, and white silhouettes of the iPod and the headphone, the white wire. And I thought it was so clever, and it just made you want to get an iPod because it was cool. I mean, I wanted an iPod before there was an iPod. Like, I knew that I wanted a thing to carry that much music around and listen to them instead of having a CD wallet. But yeah, what do you think about these AirPods Max?
I like them. It is not a product for me at the moment. That is not to say that it would not be a product I would consider a second or third revision of. But the reason I say it's not for me at the moment is just because I've got AirPods Pro. I love them. I use them pretty much all the time, and I really like the flexibility of having one AirPod in versus having both ears covered and being able to swap between them. All of my use cases pretty much dictate that functionality at the moment, with the notable exception being when we record. And I have a pair of Audio-Technica headphones that are quite comfortable that I bought specifically for this case, that I don't know that I would want to set aside this quickly, even though they're not nearly the same price range. They're comfortable. They serve their purpose well. I think I would wait until I wear them out before I look at replacing them. And then when I do look at replacing them, the AirPods Max are pretty compelling.
I agree. I did not like they're definitely more expensive than I was expecting them to be, and kind of expect the price to go down. They're kind of goofy looking, at least the ear cups, not the ear cups, but the actual, I feel like the earpiece is a little bit goofy looking. It looks like it almost looks like if you took the Apple Magic Mouse, or actually the Apple Pro mouse. Remember the Apple Pro mouse, the clear one?
Yep, I do.
And it mounted the Apple hockey puck mouse, and it had a baby. That's what those earpieces look like. The ear cups and the headband look so comfortable, but the actual where the drivers are looks like the mating of those two mice.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I certainly think that they look different, and I'm not so sure I'm sold on the look. I would want to see them in person to get a better feel for that. I think the main hesitation I have isn't even actually the price, because I think it's in line with a number of headphones that I've considered and have refused to purchase because of price. So I think that it's worth the price if it's durable enough. Mm-hmm. But I kind of want to see an iteration on the case. I really like the idea of bringing the joy of using the AirPods case to the over-the-ear, variant as well. Like, why is it not something that could recharge the headphones while it's in a case? Why do I have to plug them in to charge? Or did I miss something and there is actually a way to wirelessly charge them?
I think you have to plug them in to charge. I think the case doesn't look like it's protective at all. It looks like it's just for charging. I mean, I suppose it protects the foam. If the headband is exposed, I kind of don't like that you drop $550 for something and it doesn't come with like a carrying case. It's smart.
Yeah, so the Audio-Technica headset that I have, I can use it wired or Bluetooth. Wired doesn't require me to turn it on. It's just passive, normal headphones. And then I have it's a soft shell case, but it's firm, right? And of course the earpieces collapse up in, so it's relatively portable, even though it's still bulky. I'm kind of looking for the same ability to travel with it, with these as I would in the AirPods Max. And to me, they don't fit quite that use case. So I think they're probably still easy to travel with. It looks like they swivel and make a relatively flat layer pretty well.
It does.
It's not quite what I would want. Or maybe I should rephrase that. It's not currently what I'm looking at. I'm not sure that I would rule it out based on those. But what I really would like to see is a case that charges it at the same time and seems more protective without adding a lot of bulk.
Yeah, I would say the drawbacks, and I understand why they did this, and I don't like it. I really, there's no wire that you can plug into it for any reason. You can't charge it with a wire. You can't listen to it you can't listen to the audio with a wire.
So hold on. There actually is a 3.5 millimeter to lightning cable that you can use with these headphones to use them wired.
Oh, wait, there's a lightning port on the headphones?
I haven't looked very close. I just saw a lot of social media chatter that indicated you could use a cable with these headphones. And the one that was mentioned, because the use case that was mentioned was what if I wanted to plug it into my phone? So the way I read that is that it's a 3.5 millimeter connector on the headphones, and this cable was used to plug into the lightning port on the phone. But what was interesting about this cable is it could be reversed and be used if you needed to plug in the phone to something else.
Yeah, it is not at all. That is not at all clear on even the tech spec page for AirPods Max. Like in the box, you get the AirPods Max, you get the smart case, you get a Lightning to USB-C cable, and documentation. It doesn't come with that, and there's the size and weight, the dimensions section shows you the shape, but it doesn't show like any of like this button does that or whatever, and this digital crown does that. It doesn't show any of that. It doesn't show that you can plug anything into it, so it's unclear, and I don't think there's a gallery. There's no gallery that actually shows you product shots. There's none of that I normally expect to see on the page.
Yeah, it's definitely not clear. Like I would have assumed the same thing had I not seen a couple of things where Renee Ritchie and a couple of others were discussing it on social media.
Yeah, I mean it is like every product shot is every single product shot omits like a direct view of the bottom of the either side of the I don't know what the part is called with the ear where the drivers are. Oh, at the very bottom of the main page there is nope, there's nothing. I thought I was looking at the bottom of the where the drivers are, the driver housing, but it's a top view and it's the headband. That's where the headband attaches to it. But there's no shot of the underside of these phones, so who knows what's under there? Like I would expect there to be a lightning port. I wish it was USB-C, but I mean, I heard an interesting thing about Apple and USB-C, but that can wait for another show. But yeah, I don't know what you can penetrate this device with.
Yeah, I don't know for sure either. I just know in the conversation that I saw, they were talking about the utility of this 3.5 millimeter to lightning cable, and that it could be used to plug into, or it could be used either direction, which may actually indicate that it's lightning on the AirPods as well. And what they were doing is using this cable with the lightning to headphone adapter if you wanted to go straight to iPhone. Who knows? Like, I mean, the information is not readily apparent, but I saw enough mentions of the AirPods Pro or the AirPods Max and this cable to recognize that it was useful to use them in a wired configuration. Exactly what that means, I don't know.
Well, I was going to say, to introduce further confusion, in the battery section of the tech spec page of the AirPods Max, it says AirPods Max. So it gives like listen times, like in hours. And like it says 5 minutes of charge provides around an hour and a half of listening, that's pretty good. But storage in the smart case preserves battery charge in ultra low power state, charging via Lightning connector. Charging through the case or charging the head, it's still not clear to me because it's under the battery set. I'm assuming that you plug the Lightning connector into the smart case and you charge while it's in the smart case. But I am not sure of that. But I make that assumption because it's called a smart case.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's not, like, just from the way that reads, I wonder if it's not just that there's something that detects when it's in the case, and that's what triggers it to enter this low power state, that's what they're calling smart, sort of like the smart keyboard cover. The smart keyboard cover, the smart case for the iPad 2, it was... But see, it's like if you go on the premise of the AirPods, the AirPods come with a smart case for charge. Well, I guess it's a charging case. I don't know. Yeah. This charging via Lightning connector is under the AirPods Max with smart case heading. So it's confusing as I mean, they did this on purpose. Like they do not want you to see the bottom of the headphones. Well, I'm sure it's similar to they probably just don't want you to see a connector because they want everything to be thought of as wireless. Yeah, but I mean that's only going to last a week because I mean people are going to get these in a week and then we'll know. Well, reviewers get them in a week maybe. I think when are they supposed to actually ship? Are they supposed to ship next week? A week from today. Yeah. Oh, well then everything's just back ordered because when I finally decided to pull it up and look, the estimated delivery was 12 to 14 weeks. Wow. They dropped these just in time for Christmas for a 3-month delay. Jeez. Yeah. Well, I assume people jumped on them and got them. And oh, I'm sure. A lucky few will get them for Christmas. And it's not something that I was looking to get right away. I just happened to decide I would go look at the product page and say, okay, well, what are shipping times? And I went through every color, and all of them said 12 to 14 weeks. And so I just kind of laughed and said, okay. Well, I mean, the original AirPods, they were announced with the iPhone 7, I think. And it was like even... I was just going to say that sounds right, but I just remember not being able to get my hands on a pair for close to a year. Well, yeah, I was going to say it was a while before they even released them. They didn't have them by holiday. Like they were announced in 2016 with the iPhone 7. They didn't have them for holiday 2016. But I know even like I got mine in March of 2019, and I know holiday 2018. People were still having a hard time getting them. I remember somebody, a mutual friend of ours that worked at the Apple store was telling me that somebody came in with some AirPods. They were still shrink wrapped and they were returning them. And there was a guy there that saw them return them. Is like, I want to buy those because they were out of stock. And he bought what the person just returned. Yeah, I remember. I know it was the same general time frame, but I remember being shocked when I happened to see a pair actually still sitting on the shelf in a Target. Yeah. And of course they didn't last long. Like I watched a guy walk up, notice them, and buy them. By the time I walked over toward the display as well. So I just remember everybody had issues keeping them in stock. Yeah. I wish I could see a pile of every AirPod. None of the cases, just the AirPods. Just a pile of everyone ever manufactured. It'd be a pretty significant pile. I think it would be, but it would be an interesting looking pile. I'd want to just kind of stick my hand into that pile. I'd want to wear gloves, I think, because, whatever. But, yeah. So let's actually talk about the AirPods Max. I feel like there's some things that I really like about it. Yeah, I actually don't have anything specific to say. It's one of those things that I'd have to see it and play with it to have an opinion. I think I see where it fits, and I think it's something that I would probably like. It's just not something that I'm interested in jumping on right away, especially not given my normal use case for audio consumption at this point.
Yeah, it's not something I want to jump on anytime soon. Probably not the first generation, not this, maybe not even the second generation. I was expecting a lower price point, and I was expecting a different product, and so it's not, it's not the price point or the product that I want. Now, I don't necessarily like. I can find a reason to have them, and at that price point, but it's nowhere near a priority of mine. If it was the product I thought it was going to be at the price point that I thought it was, I would consider getting them relatively soon. But since it's neither of those, there are some things I do want to I really like about them, and that is I've always trusted Apple with audio reproduction. The iPod Hi-Fi was quite possibly one of the best sound docks that was ever on the market in the iPod days, and it didn't last long, but it was a great sound dock. I remember listening to one in the Apple Store next to the Bang & Olufsen sound dock, next to the Bose sound dock, which, I mean, these are not Bang & Olufsen makes some good stuff, but this was not their high-end stuff. But the iPod Hi-Fi, I think, was like a $350, and it was so good, and I've contemplated grabbing one on eBay, but I just, I don't want to deal with that, getting modern music into it. But I think it had all to do with it was really big, and subsequently it had good sound. Physics was on its side. Apple used moving air around the right way, and for that size thing and how much money it cost, it was a really good sound reproduction. The original headphones that came with the iPod, to pick those up in the store, I think they're $29. They've always been $29. I think they're still $29. And in the $29 price range, they were really good headphones. And the AirPods, they've sort of changed how the wireless headphone market has gone. It's a disruptor. And for what they have good sound reproduction. I expect the same from the AirPods Max. The Beats were always too bassy for me, and I'm sure they've learned some things from Beats, but that acquisition was really for the radio station. But I see these headphones being really good for sound reproduction. Not necessarily for like you said, they're not reference headphones, but I think they will sound really good. And there's a bunch of features that come along with it that I wasn't expecting.
I think it also makes for an interesting discussion when you think about combination of HomePod and AirPods Max, because on the one hand, it makes the HomePod look affordable, right? And we know the HomePod has phenomenal audio reproduction capabilities, especially when paired.
Yeah. And
with the recent update, if you have a paired set of HomePods, you can actually do Dolby Atmos decoding from your Apple TV 4K.
Wow.
And I noticed that same, I think it called it out, that the AirPods Max would do the same thing. So you're talking about what I would assume to be similar levels of audio reproduction for the space if you were thinking of sitting in a room listening to a pair of HomePods versus what you would get with these headphones on. You would be experiencing similar sound quality just in a headphone, not how you would think about it in a space of any size. Obviously, there are differences, but I think you get the idea. The idea is that with a pair of HomePods, you can get X, and you get those same features with this over-the-ear set of headphones. And so it's more where you should be making the comparison. It's just what you would listen to in a room versus what you're listening to as an individual. And in addition to that, like with the AirPods Pro, you get the, what do they call it? Spatial audio or something, whatever it is where...
Spatial audio with dynamic head tracking.
Yeah, the whole idea that you move your head and you get a representation of the sound still coming from in front of you or wherever the device is playing. I haven't tried it. I think of it as a gimmicky thing, but it's only because I'm not going to sit and watch a movie on my phone. I just don't have that use case. If I were traveling, maybe I might have experienced it at this point. But I think that getting all of those capabilities and getting the immersive sound reproduction that you would get from a pair of HomePods in a room versus what you're listening to individually. I think you have to kind of take all of that into account, because I don't think either scenario is independent of the other. I think that all of those things influence what the design of the AirPods Max were and how it fits into the product lineup.
Yeah. Well, I've been going, I've bitched about what I wanted to bitch about, and I was going in the direction I think that it will have interesting or good sound reproduction, because Apple has been good with sound reproduction, and don't want to say it as the sort of thing that audiophiles will like. Maybe they will, I don't know. But it's I don't mean it for that particular enthusiast. But a few of the other things that I find really interesting and about it are the materials. Like, that headband looks really comfortable. And if you told me they were going to stick a mesh headband on it, I was like, that seems like a mistake. Looking at it, it looks really comfortable. The ear cups look really comfortable, which is, after a few hours of using headphones, ear cups can become problematic. I thought it was so clever that they did the left and the right and the spacing of the inside of the ear cups. I thought that was pretty cool. But they don't look like I thought. I think it's really cool that they put the digital crown on it. I would not have expected that at all. And it's pretty versatile. You turn it for volume control, press it once for play, pause, or to answer a phone call. Press it twice to skip forward, 3 times to skip back, and hold it for Siri, which is, if you've ever used the inline remote on the headphones that Apple sold with it first came with the iPod Shuffle that had no buttons. And then I think it came with the iPhone 3GS. That was the first iPhone that came with that. It mimics the controls of the inline remote. And I like that. And then I like that they're calling it the noise control button, which toggles between active noise cancellation and transparency mode. It's a sleep-wake button, like on the phone, which they don't call the sleep-wake button anymore. I can't remember what they call it, but it's a sleep-wake button. I really like I really like that. Those cues they take from other components. I thought that was a really good idea.
Well, and I think it makes it feel like it fits. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's just taking what's been learned over the course of multiple different products and designs, and making them feel like they were all meant to play well together.
Mm-hmm. The design, it just fits really well. I just was not expecting.
Did you want to mention anything about what you were expecting, since you've called it out a couple of times?
I was expecting headphones. I was expecting it to be exactly what is on the market for every other Bluetooth noise canceling headphone. That's what I was expecting. I was just expecting it to be better than the Beats, because I was expecting it to be Apple branded Beats, but with better sound. That's what I was expecting, and we got something a lot more interesting than Apple branded.
Yeah, I could see that. That's especially given the price tiers that they've used with the AirPods and the AirPods Pro. I didn't expect this jump to this type of headphone, but in retrospect, I kind of feel like I should have seen it coming.
Yeah.
Especially when you think of the HomePod as a part of that audio lineup and not a separate product line.
Yeah. I also want to point out the colors. So they've got green and they've got pink. And I look at those colors on the website, and that makes sense to me. Green and pink make a lot of sense. But then you got sky blue, and half of the product is sky blue, but the other half of the product is not sky blue. And I'm not sure if the other half of the product is midnight blue or Pacific blue, or I don't know. I don't know why they didn't just call it blue.
I didn't look that close, but I thought that they had a designator for the green as well. I didn't think it was just green.
No, it's green and pink, and then sky blue, and then space gray. Like, everything that they call space gray is space gray, which I don't think in space there's actually gray. I'm not sure what in space is space gray. But if you look at it, it looks like black headphones. It looks like it's a black headband, it's black ear cups, and it looks like black anodized aluminum, which is a gray looking color. Where like the space gray MacBook Pro looks like space gray, or it looks like a gray color. And then the silver MacBook Pro looks like a silver color. And I kind of get why they call it silver on the headphones, but really it should be white, because the headband is white, the ear cups are white, and it's white anodized aluminum. I kind of get silver anodized aluminum. It's white.
I think a lot of it may also make more sense when you can see it in person and not just through the product photos too.
Pretty sure it's the same.
Yeah. Maybe.
Who knows? No, you're absolutely right. And I have a little bit of real-time follow-up. What used to be called the sleep-wake button on the iPhone is now just called the side button.
How original. Goes back to Apple's ability to name things.
Hey, I'm okay with side button because it's exactly what it is. But I got one last thing to ask you, and it has nothing to do with anything that we've talked about except for the side button. And
Okay.
that is on the side of, and maybe the confusingness of Apple's website, but on the side of the iPhone 12 with the side button, there is a rectangle with round ends that's slightly indented. I don't know
Toward
if
the bottom of the phone,
yeah,
on the side.
below the side button, yeah. What the
Yeah.
hell is that?
The quote-unquote window for the millimeter wave ultra wideband 5G.
Oh, okay. So I knew it was something with I expected it to be something with radio transparency, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And again, I used to rely on the Apple Tech Specs website for this kind of information, and it's not on there. It just it doesn't really have, but to be fair, it doesn't really point out any of the specific cameras on front of the phone for like Face ID. So there might be another the actual Tech Spec website. So I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was on the talk show or on ATP, but one of the two mentioned what it was, and I took note of it mentally.
I appreciate that you did that.
Well, I don't think I have anything else. Is there anything else you wanted to mention before we call it a wrap?
I feel like I was really bitchy towards Apple, but I actually really like the product.
I don't think so. I think both of us have a pretty high bar that we judge new products against, and it's not that it's not a good product. It's just not a use case fit that makes it easy to judge it without judging it against desired use cases.
Right. I certainly want to try one. Certainly want to try them out, and it might be worth like dropping $500 for and using it for a week and a half and returning it. But obviously, it's going to be months before you can do something like that.
Yeah, I want some clarification on being able to use it wired and passively, or if you have to use it powered on, even if it's wired and all that kind of thing. Just because of my use cases, like I have to have a set of headphones I can use both passively, wired in as a monitor, and have the functionality to use wireless for other use cases. And if it can do those, then I would put it on the radar as a potential replacement when I wear out my current set.
Yeah. I assume at least a few tech reviewers will have videos demonstrating their use on YouTube sometime early next week, and maybe the typical Apple reviewers will be discussing it this week. I would assume, since it's been announced, there's probably they've been sent test units and there's no embargo on them. So
yeah, I know when I was glancing through social media earlier, Renee was in the process of uploading a video where he was talking about it, and I don't know if that means he's put his hands on it or if it's just reactions, since he does both, but I would expect him to have his hands on a pair soon.
This week I would expect, so I'm actually going to go look at his channel after we stop recording.
And then I would assume Dalrymple will probably have his hands on a pair within a week or so.
Yeah. I don't listen to a lot of Dalrymple. I mean, I know him from the Macworld podcast when he was guest on there, but I don't listen to or read much of his writing. So.
Yeah, for a while there, I kind of monitored him pretty closely. That's dropped off a little bit. Nothing against him specifically. It's just that what I was getting, I was also getting from Gruber, and I didn't see a reason to follow both overly closely.
Yeah.
But I do still keep an eye on the Twitter feed, and sometimes there'll be a headline with a little bit of a different take or something else that I'll find intriguing and follow. It's just not one of my go-to sources.
One of my go-to sources, my go-to sources are Gruber, Renee Ritchie, and the guys at ATP. And I gotta say, you turned me on to Gruber. Like, I knew about him, knew about Daring Fireball. I had known about it for a long, long time. But it wasn't until you'd recommended him on a few occasions that I started listening to the talk show, and I listened to that every episode.
Yeah, it's definitely the only podcast that I try to stay current with, but it's not the only one that I try to make sure I circle back and listen to as possible. For all my gripes with listening to different aspects of other podcasts, I still try to stay relatively current with them as well.
I wonder how much overlap Marco and I have with ranting on the AirPods Max.
It's funny. I didn't realize that Marco was a Peak Design
Yeah.
person as well. Certainly not to the extent that I am, but I heard a call out to, I think it was the Everyday Backpack actually.
Yep. He ruined one.
Yeah.
Yeah. When he was discussing what happened to his bag, I thought about you, and I thought, Jesse's crying on the inside just a little bit. There's a little sorrow in his heart.
Yeah, I would just be surprised if he didn't send a quick message to customer support and say, "Hey, is there something I might be able to do here?"
He said he just replaced it. He just bought another one because he's Marco.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would have done if I had the kind of those kind of funds. I would just buy another one.
Yeah, I don't have those kinds of funds, and I've just added additional variants, so I'm sure I would have too.
Yeah, I look at our lives overlapped kind of interestingly. He's like a half year younger than me, and I remember from Build and Analyze, because I listened to the entire run of Build and Analyze, and he was discussing sort of like some of the life decisions that he made, and I know that he moved from Ohio to New York, to the city, and then he moved from the city to just outside the city. Like, I know which Apple store he goes to. I have been to the Apple store that he goes to. It's close to the one that I used to work at. And then I moved from the suburbs of New York into the city, into Brooklyn, and did the opposite around the same time. And the other thing that was interesting to me was that he mentioned that one of his favorite cars when he was younger was his Nissan Maxima, and my first car was a Nissan Maxima. We had the same generation Maxima. That is all.
Yeah, and listening to that podcast, it's fun to occasionally think about what mixture of the three, taking different traits from the three and making a person, and what that overlap looks like, both personally and against you. And it's kind of just a fun mental exercise.
I tend to have the same thought process and have the same ideas as John Siracusa. I just am not as good at articulating them as he is.
Yeah, I think part of why I have difficulty listening to them sometimes is because I'm highly opinionated and Marco is highly opinionated, and while we may align on a lot of those things, I think if we were to have a discussion, there would be that slight bit that I feel strongly about that he feels strongly against, and vice versa on the same topic, and that's where we would clash heads. It's not that our overall views are that different. It's that this particular aspect of this product is a deal breaker for him and a game changer for me, and vice versa.
Yeah, I was thinking about how it just occurred to me that a lot of my criticism of that show, and I've expressed to you, has been certain inconsistencies. And as of late, maybe the past few months, those inconsistencies are non-existent, and it's been actually really pleasurable to listen to. I mean, I liked to listen to it before, but I just would notice like certain inconsistencies that just really bothered me.
And given that I skipped a long range and only started listening to them again not too long ago, that could very well be why I don't find it difficult to listen lately as well.
Yeah, I think lately they've been really solid. I will say, and if you haven't listened to this, I will send you the link. I still feel like I owe you a YouTube link from last week, but I don't remember at all what it was. Oh, wait, I do. It was the Barnes stand. Anyway, there is like a 18-minute video that, an 18-minute audio clip of John Siracusa explaining the difficulty of setting up Minecraft server mods or something to do with Minecraft. It's quite possibly one of the best rants I've ever heard in my life. It goes on for 18 minutes and it doesn't get boring at all. It doesn't get overplayed. It is just such a good rant. It's one that I feel is it's quintessential John Siracusa rant, and it's so good that you can find the audio clip as a video on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll listen for sure.
I will send both of those to you. All right, we've talked for a long time.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. I think that's pretty good to call it there.
Yeah. I could probably still keep talking, but it would just be rambling, and nobody wants that.
Yeah, I would just cut it off at this point anyway and post. That's fine.
All right, man. You have a good night.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.